speaking to what you're saying is that there's challenges. There's many challenges when it comes to IoT, and how do we resolve that, especially in an industrial space where we may be very remote, we may be in a facility that's very secure, that has thick walls, that's underground, wherever. We work in challenging environments when it comes to industrial space. So how do we resolve that? So the three major IoT failures, so there's failure to implement, there's a lack of planning, and so we got to plan ahead. There's a lot of resources that come to this because when we're going out and implementing sensors, we need to know that we have power sources. We need to know that we have connectivity, and we need to know where the equipment is. Do we need the equipment running or not when we install it? How long is it going to take? How many people do we need? There's a lot of planning ahead just for the installation on its own. So that goes to the next point, improper installation. Are we putting them on correctly? Are they in the right spot? Are they connecting to the correct internet and so on? So there's a lot of variables here, and then a little support. That's a major one too. So as you're implementing it, do you have the right people, the right knowledge base to even install it? So if you buy a batch of sensors, do you have the people that understand how to do that? So then failure to sustain. So even if you get it implemented, can you sustain this product? Can you keep these sensors up and running? Do you have a maintenance plan? These devices need to be maintained. They may be wireless, so they have batteries. They may be wired, so are they going to have a consistent power source? Is that going to be taken off? Let's say it's on a motor. You pull a motor off and the wire's cut. Is the wire plug put back on? Maybe, maybe not. There's a management to these devices that we need to consider, because I can tell you really quickly, a sensor becomes useless when it's just disconnected. It just sits there and it's a cost, and eventually someone's going to come knock on your door and say, hey, remember when we bought 500 sensors? And where's the data from that? Well, we unplugged them, right? And that's a challenge in this business. So we also have lack of reporting. So for failure to sustain, do we have the right reporting structure? So let's say we got them up and running, we've got them plugged in, batteries are good, we're connected, we're getting data, but do we have the right skill set to actually analyze this information? Are we reporting back? Do we have reports on our desk? And do we have or do we have missing technical knowledge, or do we have the technical knowledge in-house? So this all feeds in, because there's got to be some kind of decision making that feeds into it. We have to have that reporting to understand the information coming through. And so that leads me into failure to act. Who reads these reports? So this is responsibilities, this is accountability. So let's say we made it perfectly all the way through, we implemented and we're sustaining, and we have these great reports that are popping up on your desk, and they look amazing. And everyone's slapping each other in the back, but then we're not acting on them. And so we have all these reports. Again, we could still get that knock on the door and say, hey, we bought 500 sensors. We haven't acted on any of it. And so that's another failure point that we can have with IoT. So who's reading the reports? Who's the person that takes those reports, looks at them, understands the information, analyzes it, and says, here's what we're seeing out of it. And then who's the decision maker? So when you read those reports and you report back and say, hey, we found this fault, who's making a decision on that? Is that going to be something that we're going to do on our next outage? Is that something that we're going to plan ahead? Is it something we're going to just note and delay? We need to make actual decisions off of this and have them have a note down on what we're going to do, have that tracked, make this a formal process. If we do that, it can be up and running, and you can say, look, all those sensors, they're showing green, they're up and they're on, and it doesn't matter. You're gathering 5,000 data points, and it doesn't mean a thing if you don't act on it. And then what are the expected actions? So you get down to the point where you're reading the reports, you're making a decision. What are the expectations? What are you getting out of it? Are you looking for faults, and then when you get the faults, are you going to put that into your planning and scheduling? Is that going to be part of your process? When you report back to leadership to say, here's the big success story, what are you going to tell them? Hey, we have downtime. We caught these faults. How are you going to celebrate success? And that's an important part of all of this, because again, if you have one of these missing, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. No one's going to care unless you get the actions out of this, and you can actually prove it out. So set expectations, understand why you're doing this, and that you can report that out later on.